As a female empowerment commentator,
Good boy,
I
stay
read this as a
focused.
story about power being misunderstood. Maya is mocked,
Good boy, you
cornered,
ready to go?
and treated like she doesn't belong.
All right, let's
Yet
move
she
out.
never wastes energy proving herself
Target
to the
locked.
people beneath
Coordinates
her mission.
confirmed. Copy.
She
Awaiting
lets
green
them
light.
underestimate
Green light.
her,
Execute now.
studies
that.
every weakness,
Go.
and
Take him
turns
down.
humiliation
Moving to cover.
into
Go.
leverage. This is not just a survival story. It's a masterclass
Target
in quiet
confirmed.
strength,
Move out.
restraint,
Good boy. Track
and
the scent.
calculated dominance. A boot slammed into Maya Cole's ribs without any warning sound. She hit the dirt path hard, and sharp gravel bit into her palms as the impact knocked the wind out of her. 4 soldiers loomed over her, laughing like it was a major victory. The voice of Master Sergeant Victor Harmon was filled with scorn. "Get up, you weakling." "Oh, right. Analysts cannot fight. They just write reports." But they were ignorant of the fact that the woman on the ground had already calculated her next move. If this story is already making your pulse race, you have found the right place. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel to see how Maya's mission ends, because this story contains a twist that you will not anticipate. Post your city in the comments section. I am really curious to see where this story is being heard. The Fort Cambria base was located 40 miles from the nearest town and carried the constant scent of diesel, gun solvent, and stale coffee. This was a place where men were judged by their physical power and tours of duty, where rank was the only thing that mattered, and being a woman was a significant obstacle. Maya Cole had been assigned here for only 11 days and rarely ever spoke. She was the type of person who blended into the background, with no awards on her uniform and a reserved personality. Her official record listed her simply as an intelligence analyst on a temporary assignment. Her ever-present partner was Remy, a German shepherd with amber eyes that missed nothing. His ears could sense the tension in a room the way Maya could read a person's intentions. She was heading toward the East equipment storage when a deep voice made her stop cold, a voice that came from a man who was not used to being ignored. "Hey, analyst." She stopped and turned around with a slow, deliberate motion. Master Sergeant Victor Harmon was a large man, with a permanent scowl etched on his face. At 42 years old, he had completed 3 tours overseas. His face looked like it was roughly chiseled from a block of granite. 3 other men stood with him, and their expressions let Maya know they were hoping for a problem. "You are in a restricted zone," Harmon declared. Maya looked down the corridor, then met his gaze. "My access badge worked on the gate, Sergeant. I do not care what your badge says." He advanced 1 step closer to her. "I am telling you that you are not allowed to be here." Remy's muscles went rigid in a way that was almost impossible to see, his weight shifting forward. Maya sensed the change through the leash without a glance. "Easy," she murmured in a low tone. It was hard to tell if she was speaking to the dog or to herself. One of Harmon's cronies, a young man around 24 with a sharp jawline, smirked. "Is that a real military dog or your little emotional support animal? Because it looks like you could use some comfort right about now." The other men chuckled. Harmon remained silent. His eyes were fixed on Maya, sizing her up. "What is your purpose here?" he demanded. "Intelligence support," she replied. "My assignment is classified far above your clearance levels, Sergeant." That turned out to be a major error. She watched his entire posture change in response to her statement. His jaw clenched, and the veins in his neck stood out. His hands balled up into tight fists. "Above my clearance level," Harmon repeated, the words tasting like acid in his mouth. "You have been on this base for 11 days. You have hardly spoken to anyone. You just walk around this facility with that little mutt, like you own the place." "Remy is a certified military working dog," Maya stated calmly, "and my assignment requires me to go wherever necessary." "Your assignment," he sneered at the word. "Sure." She was certain she should have left right then. She understood that completely, but turning to leave would expose her back, and she absolutely needed to keep his hands in her line of sight. What Harmon did with his hands was critically important at that moment. The kick did not come from Harmon. It came from the soldier beside him. It was the young man with the sharp jawline. He did not aim for her legs, which would have been predictable. He went directly for her ribs, which told Maya he was experienced at this and knew how to inflict maximum pain while making it look like a simple shove. The blow was powerful. Maya collapsed onto the gravel and did not move a muscle. Remy instantly exploded with controlled fury. The sound that erupted from the dog was not a simple bark. It was the sound of a final decision being made by a jaw that could exert 40 pounds of pressure per square inch. Remy lunged, pulling the leash taut, but Maya, still on the ground with bleeding palms and an aching side, held on firmly. "Remy, Platz," she ordered in German. The dog immediately dropped to the ground, but his gaze remained locked on the young soldier with an intensity that made the man step back instinctively. All the laughter had died. Harmon glanced down at Maya. He then looked at Remy. And then he did something that revealed his true nature. He knelt down to meet her gaze and gave her a cruel, twisted smile. "Get to your feet, you weakling," he whispered. "Oh, wait a minute. Analysts do not get up. They just stay down and write their pathetic little reports." He stood and then walked away. His men trailed behind him, one of them still snickering under his breath. It was the final sound Maya heard before the corridor became quiet. She did not rise immediately. She remained on the gravel, taking careful, measured breaths. She mentally checked her ribs and concluded 2 were bruised but not fractured. She visualized the boots she saw. The young soldier wore a size 12 with a worn heel. Harmon wore a standard issue 11.5, polished to a perfect shine. Another soldier walked with a slight limp, suggesting an old wound, possibly from a deployment overseas. She mentally catalogued every single detail. Then she rose to her feet, dusted the gravel from her bleeding palms, gave Remy a quick pat, and headed for the equipment depot. The person she was actually there to investigate was already inside, waiting. His name was Lieutenant Frank Dever. He was at a workbench, facing away from her, absorbed in his phone. He went rigid the second he heard her approach. The way he froze told Maya everything she needed to know in that one instant. "Lieutenant," she said. He spun around to see her. He was in his mid-40s, with a slender build and restless eyes that darted around the room. "What can I do for you?" "I am here to conduct an equipment inventory," Maya stated. She raised a tablet that she was not really using for an inspection. "This is just a standard procedure. It will not take much time." "I was not notified about any inventory," Dever said. "It is standard procedure," she repeated, offering him a friendly and reassuring smile. "I just need to verify the satellite communications equipment in this room. Command is requesting a complete inventory for the upcoming budget. You understand how that goes." Dever glanced from the tablet to her face and then down to Remy. "What is the deal with the dog?" "He is with me," Maya replied. "He has full clearance." A look of panic and concern flashed across Dever's face. He took a subtle step away from the workbench, a tiny, almost unnoticeable movement. "Well, feel free." Maya approached the communication consoles on the far wall, but she was not focused on the equipment. She was scanning the workbench. She noticed a faint smudge on the metal where an object had recently been. She saw new scratches near a power outlet. She was observing a man who was alone for 6 minutes before she entered, doing something on a phone he had concealed. "Everything here appears to be in order," she said, smiling. She typed fake notes onto the tablet. "Thanks for your help, Lieutenant." She turned toward the exit, Remy silent and professional at her side. She was approximately 40 feet down the hallway when she heard Dever placing a call. She continued walking. She did not turn around, but she could hear his words. Just 5 words, delivered in a frightened whisper. She was just here. Maya rounded a corner. She pressed her back against the wall. She gently pressed on her bruised side, using the sharp sting of pain. She had always used pain to maintain her focus, as a reminder of what was real and what was on the line. 19 American soldiers were gone. That was the official count. 19 soldiers from 3 separate missions over the past 8 months. Every single one was attacked before they ever reached their objective. 19 people who did everything perfectly still did not return home because a traitor was selling their movements. Maya's mission was to identify that traitor. She had been stationed on this base for 11 days. She had been shoved to the ground in front of an entire squad. She had been taunted by a man who would not even recognize her in 6 months. And she had just confirmed, with a powerful instinct she trusted with her life, that the man responsible for 19 deaths had just made a terrified call. She removed a small, folded piece of paper from her pocket. It held 3 names she had written down. She stared at the second name on the list. She drew a firm line through it. She wrote Dever's name right above it. Then she refolded the paper, put it away, looked down at Remy and whispered, "All right, buddy. We found him." Remy glanced up at her, and his tail moved once, a slow and certain wag that showed he understood. Back down the corridor where Harmon went, the men were still joking about the woman they had pushed down. The incident was already turning into an amusing story for them to share. With every new telling, the story grew with more exaggerated details. It was becoming a great joke to liven up a dull Tuesday. They were totally oblivious to the fact that the most capable person on the entire base was standing only 40 feet away, with scraped hands, a German shepherd next to her, and the names of 19 fallen heroes seared into her mind. They had no clue that their petty act of cruelty was the single biggest help they could have ever given her mission. Nobody on base knew the truth about Maya Cole, and she preferred it that way. She knew of Ray Solis from his service record long before they ever met. The information was so significant that she had circled his name 2 times on her first night at Fort Cambria, her pen clicking 6 times while she studied the details. Chief Warrant Officer Ray Solis, age 41, had served for 11 years. He held 2 silver stars, a Purple Heart, and a hidden reprimand from 8 months prior. The report was carefully phrased, but it meant Solis had disputed the intelligence for Operation Coldwater. Operation Coldwater was the 3rd consecutive mission to end in total failure. 6 American soldiers did not return from that operation. Solis was deliberately kept out of the mission review. Maya found him by himself in the vehicle bay, focused on an engine like a man who needed something to do with his hands. She addressed him by his rank, Chief Warrant Officer Solis. He glanced up. His face was broad and weathered, and his dark eyes measured her in about 2 seconds before shifting to Remy. Maya saw an honest and immediate respect in his eyes. It was not the fake praise people use on service animals to appear kind. It was real, shown by his relaxed posture and a slower, calmer breath. "That is a fine-looking shepherd," he noted. "His name is Remy. What happened to your hands?" She looked down at her palms, which were scraped and raw. "I took a tumble." Solis observed her for a long moment. Harmon's hallway or the East Bay? The question surprised her. Maya's face remained neutral, but her view of him was already changing. "You knew about that. I know Harmon treats that hallway like his personal kingdom, and I know you were there this morning," Solis said. He put down the wrench he was holding. "Gossip moves fast on a small base, especially stories people find amusing." "Do you find it amusing?" "I find it foolish," he stated flatly. "And I believe no matter who you are not here to inspect our equipment." The tension between them changed. Maya watched his hands and the way he carried himself. His whole manner was open and direct. It was not a practiced openness, which is its own kind of signal, but the true bearing of a man who was done with games. "What makes you believe that?" she inquired. "Because you do not carry yourself like an analyst," Solis said. "And that is a working dog, not a therapy animal. I can see it in how he moves." He took the wrench again, turning it in his grip. "So, you can either explain why you are here, or we can say it was a nice chat and be on our way." Maya evaluated him for a full 3 seconds, which was more time than she typically needed. "Coldwater," she said. The wrench froze in his hand. "What about it?" he asked. His voice was different now, heavier instead of colder. "You expressed concern about the intel before the mission launched. and I was told to back down. His jaw set. 6 of our men were lost. Actually, 7, Maya corrected. The 7th casualty was not officially connected to Coldwater, but the circumstances match. I also suspect the same leak that compromised Coldwater is behind the next 2 failed missions. Solus placed the wrench on the bench again. This time, he left it there. 19 lives. 19. A dense silence filled the air between them. Maya let it settle. She knew from harsh experience that filling a silence like this was the biggest mistake you could make. "Who are you?" Solus finally asked, the words sounding more like a demand than a question. "I was sent to stop a 20th death," she told him. "And I need to know, right now, if you are with me or if this conversation is over." Solus looked toward Remy. The dog met his gaze with the quiet, profound patience that Maya always found so incredible in him. It was a kind of perfect, undistracted presence. "What do you need from me?" Solus asked. In that instant, Maya felt something outside of her usual discipline and planning. It felt almost like relief, and she let it wash over her for a second before she pushed it away. "I need Dever's communication logs from the last 60 days, she said. "Not the official records. I need the ones that are not supposed to exist." Solus blinked, clearly surprised. "You already suspect Dever. I confirmed it this morning. He made a call under 30 seconds after I left the supply room. He was careless because he was nervous." "Dever has been on this post for 3 years, Solus said, thinking out loud. "He sees every mission plan that passes through this command. I am aware of that. He is also Harmon's closest associate here," Solus added. "Those 2 are joined at the hip. If you make a move on Dever, Harmon will know, and Harmon cannot keep quiet." "I am aware of that too," Maya confirmed. "That is why Harmon thinking I am just a clumsy analyst is the most useful thing that has happened to me today." Solus stared at her for a moment. The barest hint of a reluctant smile touched his lips before disappearing. "You let that happen on purpose." "I tolerated it," she corrected. "There is a difference." That was the moment Solus chose his side. Maya saw the shift in him. It was the look of someone accepting a terrible truth and then reshaping their world to face it. He stood a little taller. He breathed out slowly. His hands went still. "There is someone you need to see," he told her. "Sergeant Elena Marsh. She is our comms expert. If anyone can get those logs without setting off alarms, she can. Can I trust her?" "I have trusted her with my life," Solus said. "Twice." "Arrange it," Maya said. "For tonight. In a place Dever avoids." She had already begun to walk away when Solus spoke. He only said, "Hey," but it carried enough weight to stop her. She waited. "Those 19 men and women," he said. "I knew some of them." "I know," Maya said without turning around. "That is one reason I came to you." She walked back to her post, Remy beside her, certain of one thing. She had gained one ally in a place where everyone else saw her as either a fool or a pawn. One was enough to begin. It was always enough. What she could not have known, and would not learn for 3 more hours, was that Dever had made a second call. The person he spoke to was not the contact she had been tracking for 4 months. It was a ghost, a name she had never seen, someone who knew about Maya Cole, knew about her mission, and was already waiting for her. Elena Marsh was petite and effective, like someone who had learned to use being underestimated as a tool. She came to the arranged meeting holding a tablet, her face showing that she had already worked a few things out on her own. She looked at Maya. She noted the fresh scrapes on her hands. She looked at Remy. Then she took a seat. "Ray told me you need Dever's hidden communication files," Marsh said, skipping the pleasantries. "That is correct," Maya answered. "That will not be simple." "I am aware. If it were easy, I would have them already," Marsh replied. "What I mean is, it is nearly impossible to get them without setting off an alert that Dever would see instantly." "How much time would you need to get them clean, with no alert?" Marsh considered it, her eyes flicking upward. 48 hours. Maybe a little faster if I use the secondary diagnostics, but I can only access that during the Thursday maintenance window. Thursday is in 31 hours, Maya stated. Yes, I am aware of that. How much damage can Dever cause in 31 hours? Marsh and Solus looked at each other. It was the kind of glance between two people who have already discussed something sensitive and are unsure what to share. Tell her, Solus said. Marsh set her tablet on the table. The screen showed a mission brief. It was a routine extraction, not classified. But the operation was scheduled for 72 hours from now, and it concerned a key asset who had been in a safe house for 3 weeks awaiting this chance. Marsh spoke in a low voice, explaining the file had arrived on Dever's desk 4 days ago. Maya's gaze was fixed on the tablet. A dull ache started in her chest, and her palms began to sting once more. The number 19 shouted in her mind. He has already seen it, Maya said. That is correct, which means our asset has been compromised. Not yet, Marsh countered. Or, we have 72 hours to feed Dever incorrect intelligence and use his own network to trace his handler before he realizes what is happening. The room became silent. Remy pushed against Maya's leg. His solid weight felt like an anchor, a physical reminder of the trust she needed to hold on to. Maya pointed out a major flaw in the strategy. The lie would only work if Dever believed it was true, and for that to happen, Maya explained, it has to come from someone he trusts. A heavy silence fell over them. She let the name hang in the air. Harmon. The mood in the room soured instantly. Solus spoke carefully, but Harmon does not know about Dever. Exactly, Maya confirmed. And Dever has no idea that Harmon attacked me this morning. She looked at them directly. To Harmon, I am nobody. Dever is watching me, so he will watch anyone who gets near me, especially someone who treats me like dirt. Maya, let that sink in for a second. We need Harmon to be himself. Cocky, condescending, and absolutely certain I am no threat. Marsh tilted her head. You are going to play him like a fiddle. Harmon volunteered for the part, Maya said flatly. Solus gave a dry, mirthless laugh. He is not going to like finding that out. He will not find out, Maya shot back. Not until we are done. Her tone was level, without a hint of anger. But they could feel something else beneath the surface. This was not just about the mission. It was about payback, served cold by someone who never forgets an insult and always evens the odds. The meeting was over in just 12 minutes. As Maya headed to her room, the hallway smelled of diesel fumes, stale coffee, and the unique loneliness of a military base after dark. With Remy at her side, her thoughts turned to the mystery contact. It was the second number on Dever's phone, someone who knew she was on her way. An unseen enemy was operating somewhere on this base. In Maya's line of work, unseen enemies were the most dangerous. She had until Thursday to get a name. The breakthrough happened at 2:47 a.m. It was not in Dever's classified files, and it was not in the base personnel records, which she had already checked twice. The name was not in any official document. She found it in the empty spaces between the data, the kind of void only an expert at hiding could create. The name was Colonel Warren Phelps. Maya stared at the name for a very long time. Remy slept at her feet, his breathing steady. She sat in the silence, mentally reviewing what she knew about this man, trying to connect the dots. Phelps was not assigned to Fort Cambria. He had no formal ties here, no visitor logs, no recorded calls. His record was spotless, the kind of clean that requires a lot of effort. He was 56 years old, with 31 years of service, currently working in logistics at the Pentagon. His job description sounded incredibly dull, which was a huge red flag that it was a cover. Then she found a travel voucher, nearly buried in another department's financial reports. It proved he was within 40 miles of this base twice in the last 8 months. Both visits happened within 72 hours of a failed operation. Maya wrote his name under Dever's on her notepad. As she looked at them, everything clicked into place. It was the kind of 3 a.m. revelation that only comes with 4 hours of sleep and aching ribs. This was not a single mole. This was a complete spy network. Dver was not just a traitor working for greed, beliefs, or payback. He was just one part of a much bigger machine. He was a gear in a complex system built over years by a person with the authority and vision to create it in the shadows. A person just like a colonel with a dull job and a flawless record. She thought of the 19 soldiers who had died. She remembered the pain in Solace's voice when he told her some were his friends. She pictured the agent in a safe house, less than 69 hours from a rescue that was probably already compromised. Then, her focus returned to Harmon. She could still use Harmon, but the exact method was unclear. She needed to feed him a story that played on his ego, his connections, and his special kind of self-importance, all while concealing the truth. Harmon was valuable because he was so loud and sure of himself. Guys like that are simple to manipulate because it never occurs to them they are being manipulated. She shut the file. She put a hand on Remy, feeling the dog's steady breathing. "Okay," she whispered quietly. "Okay." The next morning, Harmon approached her. She was in the dining hall, forcing down some tasteless food when he and 2 of his buddies trapped her at her table. He had the easy confidence of someone who enjoys these small games of intimidation. "How are the hands?" he asked, a smirk on his face. He was not looking for a real answer. Maya glanced up from her meal. She paused for exactly 1 second. "Much better," she replied. "Thank you for asking, Sergeant." His smug grin wavered. He had not expected courtesy. He thought she would be silent or nervous, but she was calm. He was already adjusting his approach without knowing it. He took the seat opposite her, uninvited. His friends remained standing. "So, you report it?" he asked. "Report what?" she answered. A strange look appeared on his face. It was not regret. Harmon was not capable of regret. It was the look of a man calculating odds, a look she knew well. He was assessing if she was a danger to him. "About yesterday," he clarified. "Oh, that was nothing to report," Maya said cheerfully. "I just took a tumble. It is not important." She lifted her coffee mug. "This place is busy. Nobody wants to file paperwork over a clumsy mistake." Harmon watched her closely. Her hand was steady as she held the mug, her expression unreadable. "Right," he said again, drawing out the word. "Right." Then she casually asked, "So you and Lieutenant Dver have been here for some time?" Her tone was light, like she was making small talk. His gaze sharpened. 3 years. Why do you ask?" "Just trying to get my bearings." "He sounds like a sharp officer," Maya commented. "He is," Harmon confirmed. His voice held real loyalty, the deep admiration soldiers have for a commander they respect. "The best intelligence officer I have known." "Good to know," Maya replied. She got to her feet, took her tray, and gave a short, professional nod to end their talk. "Have a good day, Sergeant." She could feel him watching her leave. Her walk was steady and calm. She did not look back. She dropped off her tray and went out another door, her speed never changing. 30 seconds later, Remy met her in the corridor, released by Solace as planned. She knelt down, cupped the dog's head, and let his gentle licks soothe her aches, a simple comfort that felt immense. "You are such a good boy," she whispered. "Good boy." She stood up. "Harmon is a complication," she said to Solace, who was now next to her, "but not how I expected. He truly respects Dver. If this plan fails and he learns the truth, it will crush him." Solace was quiet for a moment. "Do we adjust the plan?" "No," Maya answered, "but it changes how I feel about it." It was a rare moment of vulnerability from her. Solace appeared to understand and did not press her. He simply walked beside her in silence. That night at 11:17, the system's maintenance period started, and Elena Marsh got to work. Maya looked on as Marsh worked through the system's back end. Elena moved with the silent confidence of a digital ghost, leaving no trace. Her talent was amazing to watch, a craft that seemed easy but was incredibly complex. "I am in the backup log," Marsh said quietly. "I need 10 minutes." Maya waited 9. "Got it," Marsh announced. The monitor displayed 62 days of Dever's hidden messages. They were encrypted, redirected, and wiped repeatedly, but the work was not perfect. The issue with complex security systems is they are designed to stop the curious, not the relentless. But overconfidence makes people forget about those who are patient. Marsh began to pull apart the strands of code. As Maya watched and checked against her own files, a pattern started to form in her mind. It was not a map of places, but a timeline of secrets, showing how long it took for data to travel from Dever's terminal to a turned asset. 14 minutes later, Marsh went still. "Maya," she whispered, her tone filled with alarm. Maya leaned in. The screen showed a message from 12 days prior, routed through 3 separate servers instead of Dever's main machine. But the digital fingerprint deep in the data was not fully erased. It was a sloppy error, the kind made after years of feeling safe and trusting your tools completely. The electronic path led straight to the Pentagon's logistics office, directly to Colonel Warren Phelps' section. "He knew I was on my way," Maya said. Her voice was flat, simply stating a horrible truth. "Phelps knew I was coming before I even set foot on this base." Marsh whipped around in her chair. "So this entire mission was blown from the very beginning." "Which means," Solace added from the doorway, having entered without a sound, "that everything you have done for the past 11 days, every talk you have had, every step you have taken, might already be in Phelps's hands." A heavy quiet settled over the room, the kind that happens when people grasp a disastrous reality all at once. Remy pressed his entire body against Maya's leg. For a long moment, she was perfectly still, her thoughts racing through the past 11 days. It was a frantic search, like trying to find an irreplaceable heirloom inside a collapsing, fiery house. She examined every encounter, every discussion, every step she had taken. "No," she said at last. The conviction in her tone caused Solace and Marsh to look over. "He isn't seeing everything. If Phelps was watching my every move, Dever wouldn't have been so startled in the supply bay. That surprise was real. He was completely unaware I was there. So, Phelps understands my mission on this base, but he cannot follow me everywhere." "And what is your confidence level on that?" Solace questioned. "Confident enough to make a move," Maya stated. It was not the absolute certainty he was hoping for, and his expression confirmed it. But it was the truth, and in the middle of the night, holding a data log that had just shattered her best theories, the truth was all she had. "The extraction is in 67 hours, Marsh interrupted. "I am aware of that," Maya replied. "If we feed this false information through Harmon, and Dever passes it to Phelps, he'll know it's a trap," Marsh argued. "A man of his type can smell a lie." "He will overlook this one," Maya insisted, "if the lie confirms something he already believes to be true." "So what does he already believe is true?" Marsh asked. Maya recalled the corridor, the crunch of boots on the ground, the sound of laughing men, and the arrogant confidence of a man who thought he had already won. "He believes I am failing," she said. "He is convinced I came for something I'll never find, and that the pressure on this base has finally broken me." She took a short breath. "He believes this because it is the exact narrative Dever has been feeding him for 11 days straight." "So your plan is to lean into that?" Solace said, as if confirming the obvious. "My plan is to give him a version of myself that proves every one of his assumptions correct." Maya laid it out. "An analyst who is completely out of her depth, focused on the wrong person, and about to act on deeply flawed intelligence." She met each of their gazes. "If Phelps is convinced I am chasing shadows, he won't interfere with the extraction. He will let the whole thing happen. He will be certain his own operation is completely secure." "And our real mission proceeds on a separate timeline," Marsh concluded, grasping her strategy. "On a timeline Dever has no knowledge of," Maya affirmed. "Because the schedule I am providing to Dever is a complete fabrication. The silence that fell was different this time. It was the quiet of a puzzle that finally had an answer. Solus let out a slow breath. This entire plan depends on Dver buying your fake story. It depends on Dver seeing me as insignificant, Maya corrected. Which leads us to Harmon. She glanced at the healing lines on her hands, where the new skin felt tight. Tomorrow, a reliable contact will inform Harmon that I lodged a formal complaint against him. It is the sort of grievance that will get buried in a review process for weeks. During that time, I will appear to be exactly who he always suspected I was. A woman who buckled under stress and ran to the bureaucracy for cover. Marsh just stared at her. He will be absolutely furious. I know, Maya replied. He is going to turn your time on this base into a living hell. I am counting on it, Maya said, and Dver will be watching the entire spectacle. That is the whole point. Dver will see a compromised operative acting out of emotion, stirring up drama instead of focusing on her mission, and he will forward that assessment to Phelps. And Phelps will swallow it whole because it validates every single one of his expectations for this assignment. Solus wiped a hand over his tired face. He looked drained, like a man carrying a burden that was never his to begin with. And while that drama unfolds, Maya said, her voice firm, I will map every connection in Dver's network directly to Phelps and assemble a case so flawless that neither of them will ever see anything but the inside of a concrete box. She spoke with her typical composure, but her hands were trembling just enough that she had to press them against her thighs to make them stop. Remy felt it. He always did. He leaned his weight into her side, and his warmth steadied her. She inhaled deeply and exhaled for a count of 4, just like her training taught her. She allowed the tremor to pass through her and then fade away. 67 hours. 19 contacts. One name she had only learned 14 hours before. Her thoughts shifted to the asset in the safe house. She pictured a person in a small, concealed room, awaiting a rescue mission that was headed straight for an ambush. Both of you get some rest, she told Solus and Marsh. Tomorrow will be complicated. She walked out with Remy, the corridor walls feeling like they were closing in. The base emitted its steady, low hum, and somewhere far away, Colonel Warren Phelps was sleeping soundly, confident in the belief that he could never be touched. He was mistaken about that. He was about to learn precisely how mistaken he was. The complaint arrived in Harmon's inbox at 600 hours. Maya knew the moment he read it because she was in the dining hall when he walked in, and the atmosphere in the room shifted, the way it does when a large, predatory animal enters a confined space. He avoided looking in her direction at first. That was the clue. An innocent man would scan the room. A guilty one looks everywhere except at the source of his rage. It took him 11 seconds to find her. Maya was calmly eating her breakfast. She never looked up. He covered the distance between them in 8 powerful strides. He slammed both hands flat on her table and leaned in. His face was so near she could see the angry flush climbing up his neck. You filed a complaint. His voice was a low, strained whisper, the sound of a man fighting to keep from shouting. Maya set down her fork. She met his gaze with an expression she had not rehearsed, because it was unnecessary. She had visualized this very look since 2 o'clock in the morning. It was the face of someone deeply embarrassed but trying to conceal it, with just enough defiance to be convincing. I was simply following protocol, she stated. Following protocol, he echoed with contempt. You are on a classified base during a live operation, and you filed a formal grievance because you stumbled in a hallway. I did not stumble, she replied. He glared down at her. You are making a grave error by choosing me as an enemy. I am not trying to make enemies, Maya said. She allowed a touch of frailty into her voice, enough to make her sound as if she was on unsteady ground. I just believed it should be on the record. Harmon pulled back slightly. He straightened to his full height. He studied her like a puzzle piece that no longer fit. Do you have any idea what you have just done? He asked. This puts a mark on my service jacket until a review panel clears it. That could be 4 to 6 weeks. For more than a month, my time will be consumed by this instead of my actual responsibilities. I am sorry if the timing is inconvenient for you, Maya said. It was the single worst thing she could have said. She was fully aware of it. She said it because she needed him to hear it as the most tone-deaf reply possible. It had to sound like the selfish comment of someone who valued her own feelings over the mission. His jaw tightened. He lifted his hands from the table. "This conversation is over," he said, before pivoting sharply and storming out. At a nearby table, a member of his crew who witnessed the whole thing pulled out his phone. In her peripheral vision, Maya saw him typing a message and allowed herself 4 seconds of grim satisfaction before she resumed eating. By noon, the rumor was all over Fort Cambria. DeVere had already heard 3 versions of the story by 2 that afternoon. Maya knew this for a fact because Marsh texted her a single word: running. That confirmed DeVere was transmitting the news up his chain of command. It meant that somewhere in Washington, Colonel Warren Phelps was learning about an analyst who had lost her composure, provoked an officer, and was more invested in personal drama than her assignment. Maya was in her room when Solis showed up at her door. "It is working," he announced as she let him in. "I know." Marsh detected 2 additional outgoing transmissions from DeVere in the last hour. She was unable to intercept the content, but the timing and pattern were a perfect match to his activity before Coldwater. He paused. "He is sending messages. He thinks he is safe now, so he is passing information." "Good," Maya said. "Let him. I need Phelps to feel completely at ease." Solis entered and took a seat. Remy's tail gave a quick wag before he resumed his watch at the door. "I have to ask you something," Solis began. "It concerns the fake extraction schedule you passed to DeVere. If Phelps decides to act before we can neutralize him, our asset is stranded in that safe house," Solis continued. "I understand that. We have 61 hours. I am aware of the time frame, Maya." He leaned forward, placing his hands on his knees. His gaze was direct, with the simple candor of a man who was done playing games. "If this plan fails, that asset is not getting out. Do you understand me? Our entire case must be absolutely solid before that time runs out." "It will be," she promised him. "How certain are you?" She looked at him, taking in the deep lines etched on his face and the silver threaded in his hair. She was aware of the purple heart he kept put away, a decoration he refused to wear because his own self-respect was the only approval he ever needed. The memory of 6 lost team members from the Coldwater incident flashed in her mind. "I am absolutely sure," she said. "My position has not changed." Solis let out a long breath. "And it sounds more dangerous every time you say it." "That only proves you are paying attention," she replied, "which is precisely why you have my trust." His expression softened for just a moment. He gave a single nod and then rose to his feet. "Marsh will need 2 more hours to finish mapping the threads," he told her. "After that, we will see the whole network." "Give her 90 minutes, Maya commanded. "And tell her not to use the backup channel a second time tonight. If Phelps is looking for anomalies, twice is a pattern." Solis paused in the doorway. "She's already on top of that." "I know," Maya said. "I just needed to hear myself say it." After he left, Maya remained seated with Remy. She was not strategizing, sleeping, or working. She was simply present in the quiet. This was also a part of the mission. It was the silent space between moves, where you have to balance all the pieces and just wait. Her thoughts drifted to the asset. At this point, they were just a code name, a file of risk assessments and grainy photographs. But a living person was waiting in a safe house for 3 weeks, believing in a system to get them home safely. But that system had been poisoned long before Maya was even assigned. The individual in that safe house was completely unaware of the looming threat. She pressed her palms against her legs, feeling the sharp protest of her healing wounds. It was a good kind of pain. She found it grounding that physical pain was always honest about its source. Then, at 4:17 in the afternoon, the situation shifted. The message from Marsh was only 2 words: "Come now." Maya reached the communications room in under 4 minutes. Solus was already waiting. Marsh was frozen, looking like someone who had just received terrible news and was trying to absorb the impact. "What have you got?" Maya asked. "The map is complete." Marsh began to explain. "I have the entire data path, starting with Devere, bouncing through 3 separate relays, and ending directly with Phelps. The evidence is solid. We have timestamps, digital authentications, and fragments of messages that are absolutely incriminating." She paused for a moment. "So, that is the good news. And what is the bad news?" Maya asked. Marsh angled her tablet so they could see. On the screen was a message that was not in Devere's sent folder. It had arrived 3 hours ago. The signal was traced through 2 firewalls to a cell tower just 42 miles from Fort Cambria. Phelps was not in the capital city. He was only 42 miles away from them. A heavy quiet filled the room again. Maya was getting used to this feeling, the bizarre link between 3 people arriving at the same awful answer at the same time. "He is here," Solus said, his voice barely a whisper. "He was already close," Maya replied, her tone firm despite the cold feeling spreading through her. "He was in the area before Devere's update, before our fight, before any of today happened." She glanced at the screen. "He is not here because of us. He was already on his way. But for what reason?" Marsh asked. It took Maya only 4 seconds to put the pieces together. "He decided my actions did not match Devere's reports. Devere described me as incompetent, but Phelps must have had suspicions. He came to evaluate the situation himself. So he is here to watch you personally," Solus stated. "He is watching everyone," Maya corrected. She thought of Solus at her door the previous night. She wondered if another set of eyes had observed their meeting. She mentally reviewed her movements, every door she had used, every conversation that took place near a window. "What does he know?" Marsh asked. "Not everything, or we would already be compromised," Maya said. "But he knows enough to destroy our plan." She stepped away from the tablet. She turned her back to them for a moment to collect her thoughts. The fake extraction plan was already in motion. Devere had already relayed the false plan. Phelps had seen it, but his location just 42 miles away meant he was uneasy. It proved he was not fully buying the story Devere was selling him. That doubt gave Maya a tiny advantage, an opening that was only there because Phelps was suspicious. "We are moving the extraction up," she announced. Solus made a small sound of objection. "We are not cleared for that. That decision comes from high command, and they are not on this base." "Then we contact someone who is not here," Maya said, turning back to them. "I need a secure communications line. It cannot be on the base network or anything Devere could have accessed in the last 3 years." "That really narrows down the options," Marsh pointed out. "How many do we have?" Marsh considered it. "Only my personal satellite phone. I established it on a private network 3 years ago for exactly this type of crisis. It is never once connected to the base system." Maya simply stared at her. "You planned for this?" "I planned for a day like this one," Marsh replied softly. "After what happened on the Coldwater mission, I lost faith in the official systems and made my own backup." She paused. "I truly hoped I would never have to use it. We have to use it now," Maya said. The phone call she made lasted 8 minutes and 22 seconds. She spoke to one person whose name could not be said aloud in this room or anywhere on the installation. The individual on the line listened to her entire summary without interruption, asked only 3 questions when she was done, and then said with the calm authority of true power, "I will need 2 hours. Only 2 hours." The official mission clock still indicated 58 hours to go. Maya handed the phone back to Marsh and looked at Solus. "The original schedule remains active. Phelps has to believe the extraction he knows about is going forward. Whatever his reason for being here, he cannot know that we see him." "How are we supposed to do that?" Solus asked. "If he is this close, he has surveillance. A man like Phelps would not move 40 miles without setting up an observation post." "You are absolutely right," Maya agreed. "He would not." She quickly ran through the base layout, the access roads, and the people who might leak information without realizing it. There were contractors, delivery drivers, and about 12 civilian employees who passed through security with less screening than the soldiers. So we make certain that today appears completely normal, Maya ordered. Harmon will continue to be angry with me, which is easy since he already is. Dver will file his usual reports, thinking he has won, and I will maintain my reputation as the worst analyst at Fort Cambria. A small smile appeared on Solace's face. And how will you give that performance? Maya considered her next move. Her job for the night was straightforward. Visit the dining hall. She would sit by herself. She needed to look like she was on the verge of defeat. That was the core of the plan. Maya knew that the greatest weakness of any surveillance is that the watcher sees what they expect to see. Phelps was convinced she was failing. The sight of her looking isolated and beaten would simply confirm his bias. He would stop looking closer once his own assumptions were validated. So, she went to dinner. She picked a small table for one. Harmon entered with his team, and one of them made a loud remark she could clearly hear, but she kept her eyes on her plate. She held her shoulders with just enough tension to be noticed. Under the table, Remy rested his head on her boot. Her thoughts were on the asset in the safe house. She considered what 2 hours really meant, and the challenge of arranging a rescue that would go unnoticed by enemy eyes. She pictured Warren Phelps, 42 miles away at his command post, reviewing the file of a failed analyst and questioning if her incompetence was an act. She offered a silent plea. Please let him believe it. Let the performance be convincing. At 7:43 in the evening, a new text from Marsh arrived. It held just 3 words. Authorization has been granted. Maya read it below the table, tilting the screen away from view. She let her thumb rest on the phone as she slowly let out her breath. The real extraction was now underway, on a schedule Dver did not know about and Phelps could never anticipate. The new plan was clean, the team was fresh, and the timeline was absolute. Every detail was secure. The asset would be safe long before Phelps realized his intelligence was false. That was the primary objective. But that was only one part of Maya's real mission. The other part was Phelps himself. She was after his entire network, along with all the evidence of the system that had already led to 19 deaths. Letting it continue would only increase that number. She possessed the proof. She had Dver's messages. She had timestamps, signatures, and data that would be irrefutable in a military tribunal. The only piece she was missing was a method to lure Phelps from 42 miles away without triggering every one of his defenses. She slipped her phone into her vest and picked up her fork. She forced down another mouthful of food that had no taste. Her dog, Remy, nudged his head against her foot. She took strength from his quiet warmth, a powerful loyalty she relied on more than she ever admitted. She had 37 hours to resolve the Warren Phelps problem. She had already decided on her plan. She was going to use the one man on this base whose animosity toward her made him the ideal instrument for the task. The one person who was fiercely loyal to Dver, without having any clue what his superior truly was. She was going to tell Victor Harmon the truth. At least, a version of it. He would not listen, not at first. He would only hear what he absolutely had to. She found Harmon at 9 o'clock at night in the vehicle bay, a place she knew his team would be gone. She had chosen the location for a reason, and not just for privacy. This was the exact spot where this nightmare began, where she fell to the ground, holding a leash, while they all laughed. She had never forgotten it. He needed to be standing right here when he heard the truth. She hoped the place itself would have an effect. He looked up when she entered. His face instantly became cold and hostile, his usual response to seeing her. "I have nothing to say to you," he snapped. "That is fine," Maya answered. "I did not come here to talk. I came to give you information. What you decide to do with it is your choice. I do not want your information." She continued as if he had not spoken. For a minimum of 8 months, Frank Dver has been leaking mission details to an enemy. He is the reason 19 American soldiers are dead over the course of 3 separate operations. I have absolute proof of every message, every location, and every time. His superior is 42 miles from this base right now, waiting to learn if his asset is still secure. The vast bay fell completely silent. Harmon did not budge. He said nothing. He just stood there, holding a tool, his expression shifting from disbelief to a much darker, explosive anger. "That is impossible," he whispered. His voice was different now. All the rage was gone, replaced by something cold and fragile. He sounded like a man whose entire world was crumbling around him. "I know you wish it was impossible," Maya told him softly. "I also know you are intelligent enough to see the truth, even when you hate it." "Frank DeVere is my friend," Harmon said. The word sounded hollow, as if it carried too much weight. "I know," Maya said, her voice filled with real sympathy, not deception. She understood the awful burden she was giving him. "I know he is." Harmon placed the wrench on the table. He moved with slow, careful motions, like a man trying to stop his own hands from committing an act of violence. "Let me see it," he commanded. So she showed him. She had no paper files, nothing that could be taken from her. She passed him a secure tablet and stood beside him while he reviewed the information. She watched his face, thinking about the terrible price of betrayal. He read for 6 minutes without saying a word. At the 4-minute mark, his breathing changed. At the 5-minute mark, his other hand clenched into a fist. After 6 minutes, he gave the tablet back. "Danny," he said. Maya had been waiting to hear that name. She knew it was coming. She had known ever since she saw that name in the files 3 days earlier. He was the hostage from the mission profile DeVere had reviewed 4 days before she had even arrived on base. "Your brother has been a prisoner for 3 weeks, she said. The first rescue plan was a trap from the very start. DeVere saw every detail. Harmon made a sound that Maya could never properly describe and would never forget. It was not a word. It was the sound a person makes when their mind breaks under the strain of 2 opposite truths. "Is Danny still alive?" he asked. "Yes," Maya said, "and his rescue was moved up 6 hours ago. It is on a new, secure schedule that DeVere has not seen. Your brother is coming home. But I have to get to Warren Phelps before he realizes what has happened and vanishes into the system that protects people like him." Harmon stared at her, really seeing her for the first time since she got there. She could feel him looking at her, not as the analyst or the woman he had shoved, or the complainer or the joke. He was finally seeing her for who she was, now that his version of her story was gone. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. "DeVere trusts you without question," Maya said. "I need you to tell him that you investigated me, found something damaging in my past, and that you feel command must be warned before I cause more trouble." Harmon's jaw tightened. "You want me to report you to him?" "I want you to give him an excuse to contact Phelps," Maya corrected him. "A reason that makes Phelps believe that he has already won. A man like that gets careless when he feels victorious. He will leave his secure location to manage the final details in person. And when he gets here," Harmon said, as he began to understand, "you will be waiting for him." "When he gets here," Maya clarified, "we will all be waiting for him." The silence that came next was different from all the others. It was the quiet of a man transitioning from one reality to another. It was heavy, it was costly, and it was completely real. "If you are wrong about any part of this," Harmon said quietly. "I am not wrong," Maya replied. He met her gaze for another long second. Then he picked the wrench up from the table. He turned it over once in his hand. He set it down again. "Tell me exactly what I need to say." DeVere bought Harmon's story at 10:30 that night. He placed the call to Phelps at 10:41. Marsh monitored the entire communication log. Maya stood in the hall near DeVere's room, with Remy sitting quietly next to her. She listened to the hum of network activity. At 10:49, Marsh sent a single word: moving. Phelps was on his way. The cell phone signal started to change, just slightly at first. Then it began moving at the confident speed of someone who believes he is in total control. 42 miles became 38. 38 became 29. The target was driving toward the base, not rushing, but with the cold certainty of a man coming to direct a play he thinks he has already finished writing. Maya had only 19 minutes left. "Solace," she said softly into her communications device. "Ready," he answered from the eastern fence line. "Marsh, are you recording this live?" Marsh confirmed. "The authentication protocols are active. Every word he speaks is being recorded." "Harmon." There was a short pause, then, "Ready." His voice was flat, carrying the immense weight of a man doing a job that was costing him everything. At 11:12 in the evening, the car with Phelps inside passed through the base's civilian entrance. His identification was cleared without any trouble, just as they expected it would be. A man with his influence always ensures his own access. Harmon was waiting to meet him in the main hall. Maya heard the entire exchange through a hidden microphone. She heard Harmon greet him. Then she heard Phelps's voice, which was full of an easy power that made people listen. "Give me the report," Phelps said. "The analyst is the problem," Harmon replied. His voice was firm, which surprised Maya. "She has been operating on her own since she arrived," Harmon said. "I am convinced her initial intelligence report was completely fabricated. Who was the source?" Phelps asked. "That is where I require your assistance, sir," Harmon said. "You have the complete picture. I am simply in the dark, and that was the bait." It was a flawless trap, and Phelps, blinded by his own arrogance, walked right into it. "The larger operation is safe," Phelps said. "Cole is no danger. For 11 days, she was chasing nothing, and her timing for the extraction is wrong by 18 hours. The opportunity will have passed long before they can act on her information." He spoke with the casual confidence of someone talking to a trusted friend. His words were so specific, so full of operational secrets, that they became a confession. He was sharing things he should not know, information that could only come from one source. That was the signal. Maya was on the move. She stepped into the hallway with Remy and Solace directly behind her. 3 other team members who had been approved the night before followed them. They had been on the base for 6 hours in regular clothes, totally invisible because no one was looking for them. Phelps spun around on his heel. His face was calm, sharp, and used to being in control. But when he made eye contact with Maya, something changed. It was not fear, it was understanding. He did not know who she was, but he recognized the situation. The way her team was positioned made it clear that his game was over. "Colonel Warren Phelps," Maya said. Her voice was steady, as it had been the entire week. "You are under arrest. A military court is waiting on charges of conspiracy, conduct unbecoming an officer, and your direct involvement in the deaths of 19 American soldiers." Phelps stared at her. His eyes moved to her team, and then to Harmon. Harmon looked back at him, his own face a perfect blank. "Victor," Phelps pleaded, using his first name as a final, desperate move. "Do not," Harmon replied, his one word soft but absolute. Phelps became silent. He was smart enough not to say more. He just stood there as they took his credentials and put his hands in cuffs. A hidden microphone captured every sound as his face went numb, the look of a man watching his 30-year empire fall apart in a corridor at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. DeVere was arrested in his room 4 minutes later. Maya listened from the hall as Remy nudged his head against her hand. She held him, feeling the sharp sting of her own fresh cuts, a pain that was real and belonged only to her. Solace came to stand with her. For a long time, they both shared the silence that settles in after a mission is finished. "Danny Harmon's flight will be here in 41 hours, Maya finally said. Solace breathed out slowly. "Does Harmon know?" "He will in about 3 minutes, Maya answered, "right after I tell him." She went to find Harmon in the reception area. He was leaning against a wall with his arms folded, his face a battle of emotions. When she came around the corner, he saw her. He had the shocked expression of a person trying to absorb unbelievable news. "Dever?" he asked. "He is in custody," Maya confirmed. "It is finished." He managed a slow, heavy nod that seemed to take all of his energy. Harmon's voice was thick with emotion. "We were friends for 11 years. "I know," Maya replied softly. "I cannot imagine how to make sense of it." "You do not need to figure it all out tonight," she told him. He watched her, and his stern expression softened. It was not an apology, but for Maya it was close enough. "He noticed your hands." "They are healing," she said. Then she told him about Danny. She saw the news shatter his world in an instant. For a brief moment, tears filled his eyes before he fought them back. His breath caught in his throat and then steadied. He pressed the back of his hand against his mouth. 41 hours, he whispered. 41 hours, Maya affirmed. He nodded once more and then turned toward the wall. She gave him the space, knowing that some sorrow requires privacy. Remy came over and gently nudged his nose into Harmon's hand. The large man glanced down at the dog. His tight control did not break, but it cracked with genuine emotion. He rested a hand on Remy's head. Remy stayed right there, offering his quiet comfort. By 4 a.m, the tribunal possessed the entire evidence file. It included files on the whole network, conversation logs, digital signatures, and the recording of Phelps's own confession. The case was completely solid, built in just 11 days by the one person on the base that no one considered a threat. The extraction mission was declared a success at 2 p.m. the following day. The target was brought back safely by a route Dever was not aware of. The team's instructions never passed through a system Phelps could watch. It was a perfect operation, the kind that happens when the traitor is finally exposed. This is what occurs when information is properly secured, and capable people are finally free to do their jobs. Maya was not present for the extraction. She was in a 9-hour debriefing, detailing every action, observation, and piece of evidence from her first day at Fort Cambria. She responded to every question with her usual calm and incredible precision. She left nothing out, not the gravel lot, the heavy boots, the mocking sound of laughter, or the 11 seconds a man chose to ignore a wrong he did not want to acknowledge. After the meeting, she stepped outside into the crisp air with Remy by her side. She paused, tilted her face to the sky, and breathed in, enjoying the feeling of a job well done. 19 names. They were still on her mind, but now they were not a difficult weight. They were a sense of purpose. The reason she had arrived at this base 11 days ago, endured the shame on the gravel, and patiently bided her time to make a move. Victory is not always a loud or forceful event. Sometimes winning is quiet and patient. It means being prepared to be overlooked, taking note of those who underestimate you, and knowing with absolute certainty that your moment will arrive. This was a principle Maya Cole had known her entire life. She was just waiting for everyone else to understand it too. If this story resonated with you, if it was a reminder that true strength is often silent and courage does not need to scream, I encourage you to subscribe. Please, leave the name of your city in the comments section below so I can see how far this message was able to travel. And if you believe that the most underestimated person is often the most powerful, please type Amen. May you find blessings, no matter where you are listening from.